nice steps that lead down into the depths of the earth or something. I don't know. I'm going to delete that. Another thing is, when you're using vertex mode here, you can see if you have an isolated vertex, say just go like this, and it's just sticking out there. For some reason, when you delete polygons here, you can say delete isolated vertexes. If you want to keep them there, but just delete the polygon in between them, which sometimes you do because you want to keep them as a guide, you just want to triangulate the face, so instead of like having these radial things, I could have it so that they were strips along here. Say you wanted to do that, you don't really want to delete the vertexes, you could just untick this. But if you find that you have some, you can just click this button and it deletes them all. I normally do that at the end when I'm about to export to something, because it just cleans some stuff up a bit. Now, I think this is a good time to, I'm just going to extrude that out there. It doesn't really matter how far I do because I'm going to put the symmetry modifier back on. I took it off because it was screwing things up. And as you can see, it's not really flipping the right way. It's copying this side onto this side, and I want it to go the other way around. So I'm going to click flip, and it does that. As you can see, it just made almost a whole model with the click of like 4 buttons. The only thing about this is it creates a seam down the middle, which normally you don't really want. So I'm going to, I'm going to get rid of this and just keep what I have. You can either collapse 2, collapses the stack. Say you had like 50 of these modifiers. If you right click on one in the middle and you select collapse 2, all the ones on top will go away and you'll be left with just the one you had. And if you wanted to, you could just say collapse all, and it'll collapse it all onto the bottom one. And this, you can just say yes or no, whichever one. I normally say yes because that's all I want to do, but it's just warning you that as you collapse the stack, you won't be able to change anything that's happened in any of the modifiers at all. Everything is unchangeable, so to speak. Everything's still there. It's just you can't go back and change it, and normally you sometimes do want to change things, so don't do that unless you really want to. So I'm just going to get rid of the seam because I don't want it. Oops. Oh, there's random multiple vertices there. As you can see, there's more than one selected, so I'm just going to select a bunch of those and click weld. That'll get rid of most of them. If you click the little box, it has a weld threshold here, and that's for, say, if they weren't as close together as that, then you could just increase that, and as you can see, as I put it to like 50, nothing happens, but as I go up, then the distance between the points that'll weld together increases, and you can get some odd shapes. So just leave that at 0.1 most of the time, and it works fine. It also brings them to the center of all the vertices being welded. So if you had 4 of them, it would bring them to the center of all 4. And if you had 2, it would bring them to the center of 2 of them. And as you can see, it created some odd polygons not being there. Oh, there's you go. There's a degenerate triangle right there. It just has this vertex and this vertex. Or, well, I guess it has all 3 there, but there's only 2 edges from here to here and here to here. So it's not actually useful, so I'm just going to delete it. And that means that this face is also illegal because it doesn't connect to this vertex there. So I'm going to have to recreate it. So we have some nice lookingness there. Another thing you can do if you just want to get rid of vertexes is you can press backspace once they're selected and they'll just go away. I haven't had very many problems with it, but if you do have problems with it, you might not want to, just in case. So now I'm going to create this middle path here. I think I want it to be a little wider because I want it to narrow as it gets to the outside. And we also have to have steps. I think I want to kind of have like a nice hallway here. Something big, because I like big things. Here might be a good place for a ramp. Maybe. Oh, another thing to worry about is if you are going to use steps, you have to be careful about how high they are. Some games, steps are a problem and things just don't work properly on them. So a way to cheat is put plane so it's actually a ramp, but make sure that the planes don't have a visible texture. They're only collidable so that things actually just go up a ramp rather than downstairs. And that normally solves that problem. But sometimes, if the game doesn't have a problem with steps, you can just leave it and it works fine. That's just something you have to test before you give your map to the public, or I guess that's only applicable if you're using a map. So just make sure you test that. I think I will have a ramp here. I can always change it later. So I'll just do that. Oh, you also have to be careful about the angle of the ramp. Sometimes if it's too steep, a game will pretend it's a cliff or something and it won't let you get up it. So make sure it's shallow enough to work. I think Halo, the angle is 45, but you can change it. So just be careful about that. Sometimes that causes problems and it's not very good when you can't climb up a ramp. So I'm going to just shallow this here. I want it to be a little thinner than this gap here, because I want to kind of have a doorway arch leading out. The only thing about this is it seems to be very long. I might do that. I think that's good. Pressing P will put it in perspective, T will give you top, B will give you bottom, left will give you left, and sadly R does not give you right. I'm not exactly sure what gives you right, but if you do need right, I'm sure there's a hotkey map somewhere. Once again, F4 does the edged edges there. I find that's useful because it just looks more appealing. There's nothing like spending 40 hours on a model and having it look very boring. It just looks nice this way. Oh, I think I want this to go out straight a little bit and then narrow. There. Most of the time things don't have to be perfect. So don't try and be a perfectionist unless you have to. I know there was an error in Halo, whereas if the vertexes were something ridiculously small, like 0.0001 units off, he wouldn't think this face would be flat, and it would give you a coplanar error, and that's not good. So all basically you had to do was select the face, and if it was along one of the axes, you could use this tool here, make planar. Oops. And what it'll do is, if it's on the y-axis, which is going along this line, and you click the Y button, it'll make it planar along that axis, which it can't do because it's dumb. It will make it planar along that axis, and you can, if you wanted to align it to the viewport, you can click View Align. As you can see, that totally screws up my model, but I can just go back. And if you had a grid, you can align it to the grid there. But I don't like using the grid because I don't find it's very helpful. Now, the next part is, I can delete those. The next part I'm going to do is this part out here. I like to make a rough floor plan like this, not building walls first, because I find it's nice. It just helps me view the level more. I think I want to make this part wider, actually. Not the middle part here. I want to make the gap a little wider. So remember this bottom down at the number down at the bottom here. I don't want to move it that much. How about this much? So we can just put a -70 there. Oops. I guess we want to add 7 to that. And if you press enter, -70. Huh. Guess it doesn't like that. Well, we can just approximate it. -70.333. So then we get this and add 70. Oops. .333. That's kind of annoying. Okay, we'll do it the old-fashioned way. Calculator. Plus 70.333. Copy. Paste. There. I think there's also a calculator here. This is the tools over here. Some of these are nice, like reset X form. If you find that some of your tools are working very oddly, if you click this button and you reset the object, you'll lose the pivot point things here, but basically that's it, and it'll fix most of your tools. There's also a bunch more here if you wanted to use them. I think there's a calculator somewhere. Oops, those are sets. We want to go to more. I guess not. Oh, there's UVW remove. That's useful in case you've totally screwed up your UVWs. You can just click that and everything will go away. That's very nice. I've used it a few times because sometimes it just doesn't work the way you want it to. And There has to be a calculator somewhere, but I can't find it, so I won't worry about it. Now, I think